What's up everybody, it's Rakusen here with another Kingdom Hearts mechanics breakdown. Think of this as a follow-up to my Kingdom Hearts 3 Floaty video, and not of me trying to ride the coattails of its success. If you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend checking it out first. You can watch it right here. Thanks, now let's get into it. Another question I don't see asked much, but I think we need to address is, was floaty gameplay ever the problem? I personally don't think so. In fact, the floatiness is nothing more than a byproduct. The lack of weight or gravity to our character and their attacks really shines through because of other issues in the game itself. Let's take a look at Osaka games. First thing we blame is the floatiness, right? Well, when you break it down, the floatiness is nothing more than just a lesser aspect of the game that really becomes more prevalent because of the unbalance in the game or combat. This needs to be brought to light because we don't want to get caught up in misconceptions when judging a game based off its shortcomings. Osaka Team's previous games have been unbalanced, not broken, but unbalanced. And the one main aspect, and most important of all in these games, combat. Floatiness has never been the main issue. In fact, it's very easily overlookable, but when it's tied into dysfunctional mechanics, it can become a real issue. We need to remember that when we are judging a Kingdom Hearts game, especially Osaka's, that we must focus on the big core aspects of combat. Weight and gravity, control over character, balance of the variability in moves, and enemy AI. Let's look at the weight first. In Kingdom Hearts 1, Recom, and 2, Sora felt like he had weight. He was heavier in Cage 1, which could lead us to landing too soon and canceling our aerial combo or mid-air magic. Recom remedied this by having our attacks have a longer lock-on radius. I call it a lock-on radius because if you look at when you use an attack card, Sora kind of flies towards that enemy quite far sometimes. Not only that, but Sora also felt just a tad lighter when his attack sort of lifted him up ever so slightly while still maintaining some kind of gravity. 2 was when he was the lightest. Look at Magnet Splash, Aerial Spiral, and especially Horizontal Slash. He obviously stays suspended in air for the duration of the attack. However, this wasn't an issue due to the way gravity worked in that game and the enemy/boss design. I'll go more in depth on the beauty of all this in 2FM in a later video. Now on to when Osaka took over. BBS first. All three characters all felt the same in the air, oddly suspended in air until the attack animation finishes, and then another falling animation initiates. That's pretty much it, honestly. Floaty combat and not any sense of gravity while attacking. On to DDD. It's actually much better here, and the animations are much faster, so the floatiness isn't as noticeable. Looking at 0.2, the floaty combat is really the only time where it's the main issue due to the fact that nothing else in our skill set really ruins the balance of the game. We don't really have anything that is really overpowered. Spellweaver is balanced, Wayfinder is situational, and only shows up in a couple boss fights. We're actually encouraged to use normal physical attacks without them becoming invalidated. However, due to how gravity works with Aqua in the air after attacking, she's way too open to attacks. Especially once from enemies that we can't see or possibly react to. She just doesn't start to fall until the attack is finished, which is an issue here. Okay, so now that we've covered gravity and the weight of our characters, onto the second aspect, control over our character. This one isn't as difficult because in 1, Recom, and 2, we had very solid control over our character at all times. As I previously mentioned in my video on KH3's floatiness, we maintain control of our character at pretty much all times. Even in limits and slates and Recom, we still have a semblance of control and how the attacks are executed. Flashy and with flair, but still functional. On to BBS, the D-Links were actually pretty good in terms of letting us still control our character. They just gave us a new corresponding command deck, and the finisher was just a special attack that we could still control. All the commands are great too, barring the surges, they could get a little wonky at times. As for DDD, this is just when things got a little too outrageous. Some of the Dreamlink attacks for Sora were crazy, but controllable, kind of, while others were just wildly bouncing or flying around like a bat out of hell. A Komori bat, that is. Bad puns aside, Riku's Dreamlinks are some of the worst handling attacks I've ever had. Mix it in with overly aggressive enemies, and we've got a problem. No iframes with these attacks, like with the command styles in BBS, but those were at least a little better. Looking at Fire Raid, Blade Charge, even Ghost Drive, Riku goes crazy, and these long drowned attacks invalidate most of the links at higher difficulties. The commands were fine, however, so they kept that from BBS at least. 0.2 is really in a league of its own, coupling with a slight influence from Riku's Dreamlink attacks. Some attacks of Spellweaver are long and drawn out, leaving us open to retaliation, while Wayfinder, albeit its rare occurrence, the attacks are fast and get right to the action. Overall, 0.2 seems like a step in the right direction. Moving on to the third aspect, we look at the balance of the variability in moves and resource management. Oh boy, here we go. I'm gonna have a field day with this one. The balance of the variability in moves is a huge, I cannot stress this enough, huge aspect, and is in my opinion the most important one in a Kingdom Hearts game. Let's take a look at the original 3 games first. 1 had some stronger moves, such as summons, however you could only use each respective summon once per combat encounter. They also cost MP, and you had to have both your party members alive. Perfect way of balancing otherwise rather strong attacks. Limit attacks such as R's, Ragnarok, etc. were fine and well because of how expensive they were. You couldn't really spam them, and even then, they didn't do too much damage to break anything. Recom, Lethal Frame is pretty stupid, but it was slightly held in place due to losing your stop card used in the slate. Still, extremely overpowered, and made pretty much every boss fight, not counting Spectre Marluxia's first phase, rather trivial. 2 had so much to do in terms of combat. It was rather overwhelming. Was anything really that overpowered? Debatable. However, it was always attached to a resource. That's the key takeaway here. Everything that was stronger than normal attacks cost resources. Mana, focus, drive gauges, all of that. It was a system of checks and balances that added another layer of depth and strategy to these games. BBS introduced command decks and styles which are faintly reminiscent of Days combat panels, being that you can only use certain abilities/spells when equipped. BBS, however, ramps it up to 11, and pretty much your entire combat experience is tailored around your command deck. This would be okay if they didn't have clearly overpowered attacks and on higher difficulties were quintessential to survive. Not only that, but some abilities made boss fights feel less like boss fights and more like a game of cat and mouse. Ignite, Thunder Surge, Mind Square/Seeker Mine, and Fabricadabra on Aqua. These are just some of the things that really ruin the experience and overall flow of the game. You may say though, well, why not just not use them then? You can do that, yes, but then the game becomes almost artificially difficult. It becomes less of a fun additional challenge and more of a hassle. These moves also had no limit, just a cooldown. Use a move, run away, use it again. Run away, rinse and repeat. Like I said, cat and mouse. You didn't really have any resources you had to preserve, just time you had to waste running around waiting. It made the combat feel unnecessarily lengthened, and throw in some absurd boss AI and design, well, we've got another issue. DDD is simple. Balloon. Simple as that. Balloon, Balloonra, and Balloonga are all so overpowered, it's stupid. Maybe that's a good thing. You know, some people really enjoy the balloon spells, and hey, more power to you. I'm just pointing out the fallacies in having one attack with, again, no need for resource management, and the fact you're just running around dodging relentlessly, waiting until the enemy or boss's HP drops to 0. The Dream Eaters are practically useless, if not for the fact your abilities and unlockable spells were tied to them. That's cool with me, I like that little feature. 0.2 is really the best Osaka has done yet in terms of keeping overpowered combat abilities and resource management down to a minimum, especially with the shot lock. Oh my god, the shot lock makes me so happy. It's interactive, it slows down time, and you can't spam it whatsoever. I'm not a big fan of crit having your MP, but it definitely made the game a lot more difficult, if not unfair at times. I say unfair because of some fights just feeling like magic becoming a necessity, and when we're handicapped with little magic, it resorts back to the Osaka cat and mouse type of combat. Again, outside of crit, the magic resource management is really good in my opinion. The few style changes we get are great because even on easier difficulties where they show up more easily and frequently, they're not overpowered. I really like the boss-specific style change such as in Wayfinder, super cool and super fun. 0.2's resource management is fair, even with style changes being reoccurring. Again, a step in the right direction. Now on to personally my favorite, enemy AI. Kingdom Hearts has always had some of the best AI in any RPG. Hell, any game I've ever played. The original 3 had normal, staggerable bosses, which felt rewarding and fair. Not much to say for 1 and Recom. 1 didn't really have revenge values, like you can hit Riku Ansem and Hollow Bastion 4 times before he retaliates. Just nothing to manipulate or really think about. The normal mob enemy AI wasn't bad or good, really. There was a radius that they would attack you, otherwise they'd just randomly throw attacks out. Objectively, they attacked well and didn't boast any crazy array of attacks that you can't see coming. Sniper Wilds can go to hell, though. Recom had the card system. The AI sometimes did smart things, other times threw like 1s and 2s at my 26 value slate. 2, however. Oh, baby. I mean, objectively, 2 is regarded as having the best enemy AI, boss AI, and overall combat in the series thus far. Let's get into it briefly. Enemy AI was a lot more fun due to the introduction of reaction commands and the enemies seemingly having more options in combat. The boss AI was fun, kinda simple at times. 2FM's AI was outrageous with the secret bosses, though. Their AI was set to lunatic at all times. What really made these boss fights so enjoyable and rewarding was the hidden revenge value system. I can't go deep into detail without talking too much, so I'll keep it short and simple. In essence, most humanoid bosses are programmed to take so many hits from you, not counting party members or other things not related to just normal physical attacks, before retaliating with a predetermined attack. The popular consensus is this hidden value makes the boss fights much more enjoyable and strategic. You're not just blindly hitting willy-nilly. Every attack matters, and on higher difficulties, one mistake and you're dead. People say this is dangerous or bad for the design due to it being easily exploitable, but that's really up to your discretion. BBS enemy AI was fine outside of bosses, and pretty much every boss fight showcased the flaws in the game's balance. They're attacking you relentlessly, sometimes you can't see the boss, and other times there's barely ever an opening even after guarding or a long attack. And when you do get an opening, sometimes they stagger, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they randomly break out of your attack and kill you. Some commands will consistently stagger the boss, others will get you killed. It makes for a rather unfair and unfun experience. Some people like the randomness of it, however, the element of surprise, if you will. The super bosses I'm not even going to mention in this video. That's for another time. DDD had the same issue with the enemy AI being fine, but the bosses going nuts for the most part. Again, very inconsistent staggering issues with the humanoid bosses, except for one thing. Just guess. If you said Balloon, congrats, you've now beaten DDD. Jokes aside, why Balloon is the only spell that has consistent staggering on bosses is beyond me. Hell, it even staggers some of the big bosses. Take the Xemnas fight in 2 and compare it to the Xemnas fight in DDD. Xemnas in DDD not only has inconsistent staggers, no revenge value, but he attacks relentlessly with no rhyme or reason. It just felt off. Without Balloon, the boss fights just felt, well, unfinished. Like, if you're not using Balloon, the bosses aren't supposed to be staggered. It's a mess. 0.2 is a train wreck at times in terms of mob enemy AI and boss AI. Enemies will attack you from halfway across the map, no program radius for you to be in for them to attack you. Demon Tide and Demon Tower are absurd with having random active hitboxes at times. Phantom Aqua, however, is something Osaka did right. I love this fight, and it's arguably one of the best secret boss fights in the series. Outside of this fight, however, the enemies just seem way too aggressive, and it made you feel helpless at times. I feel like at times, Osaka just designed these games without the higher difficulty in mind. And even then, you'll still catch an ass whooping. Now that we've covered the biggest key parts of Osaka's combat design, we can now really see that inherent floaty combat isn't always an issue. It's become too much of a buzzword or a crutch for us to fall back on, easily judging a game solely off of its floatiness. I'll break down these aspects more in a video specifically tailored for KH3, whether we get more gameplay or not. This video, however, I just wanted to clear up some misconceptions people might have had when judging a Kingdom Hearts game's combat based off of the gravity alone. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more. If I missed anything, let me know. I love discussing with you guys in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later.